When you are asked about boundaries, what's the first thing that you think of? For most people, it's like our property boundary, like our boundary line. This is great because really that's what that, it's a boundary. We're there, but we also talk about boundaries with each other. So what about boundaries with children? I'm not talking about fencing them in, boxing them in and saying, this is who you're going to be, but those boundaries that are healthy and thriving. Are they needed? Do children thrive with boundaries, or are we just stifling them in their childhood? Hi, and welcome to Learning Life. And thank you for joining me today as I talk about something that I think is really important. And this has come from lots of years of working with kids, whether in the classroom, leading them on camps, in a variety of different settings, as being a parent. And it's about boundaries. Kids need them. Without them, guess what? They lose their way. Look, I think that they really do best with clear rules, those consistent consequences, but I also feel like they really need to be delivered with love and understanding and kindness. Boundaries with kids is something that is so very dear and close to my heart. And it is something that I can get passionate about when I'm talking with people. There are reasons we have rules and consequences in life. Do we talk about them with our kids? Do they understand, why do we wear seatbelts? Why do we wear helmets? All of those different things. We sometimes talk about the bigger ones, you shouldn't be, going up and fighting with people, even murdering, all of those different things. But we have other little rules, in life. And when our children understand, rules, they understand why they need to follow them. They understand that there are consequences to it. It is extremely helpful for them. And that is, yes, whether we're wearing a seatbelt, wearing a helmet while we're riding a bike, wearing a shirt and shoes in a store. We see these things here. Or what about don't get in the car with someone that you don't know? We can all be learning different ways that we can be helping our children to grow. To me, this is such a great parenting tool that we can have to really be working with our children so that they are going to grow to be the amazing adults that we know that they are going to be. And I thank you so much for watching today as you just get to hear my little passionate cry with this. I do thank you for the likes and for the subscribes, for your comments. You can check out some of my other videos on parenting and these different things as well. Well, we started establishing boundaries with our girls when they were very young. To me, this was very, very important. As I said, I started this when I was teaching, actually in Teachers College. That was when I first read Boundaries with Kids by Cloud and Townsend. I was nowhere near having children of my own, but applying those principles into my classroom was amazing. And I always knew that when I was having children that this was going to be so important. So we started young. We started that communicating young. And it's something that we continue to do today, and we will continue to do throughout their life, whether they like it or not, because it's important. And one thing I was always clear on is making sure that they really understood what a boundary is. It wasn't just rules, but this is a boundary. And we talked about fences. So my uncle has a sheep and cattle farm, and the girls have seen that. So we know about fences. We see them as we go out, and there's different properties they've got a fence. Oh, look at the school that's near us. They have a fence. What does the fence do? It keeps us safe, whether it's us away from the dangerous stuff or the dangerous stuff away from us. And they really grasped this fence meaning rather well. And so it really got to that point of we'd been talking, we set this boundary and we talked about this is the fence. And we'd be oh, it looks like you're trying to climb over the fence. Do you think that's the best idea? What could you do differently? So they got it. We were able to talk and say, hey, you can come and crash into this fence as many times as you like. Really, it's up to you. You're probably the only one that will get the bruises from it. But, you can do this. But when we see you trying to climb over this fence, that's when we're going to have to step in with those consequences. And we've got them involved in what these consequences would be. So if we didn't do that, what do you think? So that they had ownership in it. But when we could say I see you trying to get up over that fence, do you want to change what you're doing? And sometimes we wouldn't catch them until their leg is up and over, but we could still redirect. And we found that really it was great to do it in such this age-appropriate way because, well, we do need to do that for our kids, right? We want them to learn. We want to keep them safe. We're not trying to teach them something they're not ready for. A 3-year-old is not going to understand all the legal rules that we have in the system and why we need to be paying taxes, but they are going to be ready for, we do not touch the stove, it is hot. If you touch the stove, you could get hurt. We're going to build into it. They understand the importance. If they're not ready for it, you're only going to push them towards chaos. And do we really need more chaos in our lives? Why are boundaries important? Boundaries are important, not just for kids. They're important for all of us. But here's where we look specifically for children, why they are important. That safety issue. We want to keep them safe. We're not wrapping them up in bubble wrap, but we are saying, hey, this is the reason why, and this is where we're doing it. This is for your safety. And in that, we give them empowerment, allowing them to hit that fence as many times as they like, but understanding, how can you control yourself? Are you empowered to step away from that? And how are you going to do it in the right way? Because we want to build their self-esteem. We want them to feel like, I can do this. I'm actually really good at keeping away from that fence and not climbing over it. And even giving an assertiveness in how they deal with it. An example of this is we have no secrets. We are not a secret family. We do surprises because a surprise has a natural end to it. It has an end date. Surprise, here is your big birthday party that you didn't know about. It's got an end, but a secret, that is sort of something that you want to keep here. And my girls know this, and we've talked about why we don't do secrets. And a little friend of theirs came up and wanted to tell them a secret. And my daughter was like, no, we don't do secrets in our family. And I was rather proud of that. And she sort of said it in a reasonably okay way. And this little girl did get upset and came to me and she's like, well, what? I said, we just don't do secrets in our family. But my daughter was assertive enough to be able to say she understood the why and could communicate, no, we don't do it. And from that, we want to have respect for each other. And this helps to build healthy relationships. I want a healthy relationship with my daughters. I want them to have a healthy relationship with their father. I want them to have healthy relationships with their friends and their friends' parents, other family members. And when we can respect each other and build that up, then that is extremely worthwhile and important. And so having boundaries is going to help to build that. And then for that, we're going to have the emotional well-being, because this is something that helps them to truly be the amazing adult that they're going to be, knowing that they know how to communicate and to build through, understanding why, being assertive when they need to. This is all great. And for parents, I truly think that having healthy boundaries helps to alleviate anxiety and stress and worry that we will mess our kids up. I know I get anxious. I have stress. And I realize that if I'm not going to be teaching and establishing boundaries, it's only going to come back to bite me. I don't want that for my girls. I don't want that for any of you. When we understand that they're going to be safe because of this, it can relieve that anxiety and that stress. We don't want it to come back and bite us in the butt. How can we teach boundaries to kids? As I said earlier, we talked about fences and we looked at fences and we communicated a lot about fences with the girls to make sure that they understood what we were talking about. We still do. So do what works for you in this. What simile or metaphor or analogy? Fences to me just was a natural thing. Boundaries, fences, it works. But there might be another way that you want to do it. Now, my girls might not like some of the boundaries that we have in place right now, like no sleepovers, but I'm totally okay with that. We've been able to communicate with them. Why? Because as I said, that's important. And I need them to understand we're not saying that's forever. This is a boundary for right now. So we want to really build up their social development and their emotional development. And so here's how we can do it. First of all, we really want to be modeling like these boundaries and the language that we're using around it. Children observe very well and they pick up so much from it. So we do want to model, just like we model reading or we model eating nicely at the table. We want to be modeling these boundaries. And in that, we also want to use clear and consistent communication. Easy words that they are going to understand, and also being consistent in what we're saying. This is a great time to get together with your parenting partner, whether it's your spouse or your partner, or, even if you are divorced and you're co-parenting, like how can we be consistent in that? That is truly, truly going to be helping our children. And so we're going to be clear with that. And then I think it's really important. This is a great time as we are establishing boundaries to really reinforce and discuss personal space, privacy, and consent. Those are big ones. A lot of boundaries really can revolve around that, in how we're behaving and what we're showing, for our children to understand this is your personal space, this is your private areas, all of that, and how we can be saying no. We started this for when our girls were very little. And so that we're to be able to say, you don't have to give hugs. You don't have to give kisses. And family members want it. And my girls do love to give hugs. But there are times when they don't want to. And we can truly say no. And they can truly say no and actually communicate, not right now. Maybe they could wave, they could give a fist pump, anything like that. We also want to teach empathy. Understand somebody else. There's going to be a different way of doing things. People in personalities or in families have different things. So can we understand where they are coming from? That's actually helpful also in boundaries. And yes, we want to establish family rules, in how we're going to be communicating it, in what we're going to be saying and doing, and even in the rules that you have. For ours, no secrets, no sleepovers. We speak kindly to each other. We speak nicely with kind words. All of these things. We have our family rules, one in our boundaries, so our family boundaries, but also our rules in how we communicate within that. And this helps, I think, for that last bit to foster that open communication. So when we're saying, if this behavior is going to continue, we're really going to have to establish a rule or a boundary around this. How do you feel about that? What do you think you could do? And if we are establishing a boundary, that we are saying things like, what do you think the consequence could be? And getting our girls involved in it, that they can also come and talk to us when they're not sure about something. And so I think boundaries can be really good. We say to our girls, this, our laps with our arms around them, is their safe spot with me and with my husband. And that they can tell us anything, that there's nothing that they're going to say that's going to stop us from loving them. They are free and they are open because we have actually created this safe space, created this boundary for them that they are right here. And so we can be doing that to teach our kids about boundaries. When they test the limits. It is very safe to say that our children are going to test their boundaries and they are going to test the limits. This is what they do. It's part of their DNA, but it is part of their growing up too. They're not going to learn unless they do this testing. So what can we do when they are testing us? Because it happens. One, also just keep a good stock of chocolate or ice cream. No, we take a deep breath and we remember, treat others the way that you want to be treated. I have to tell myself, I don't want to be shouted at, so I'm not going to shout at them. I'm going to keep my communication, my instructions brief. I am going to be no, we can't, and this is why, sort of thing. I'm going to be consistent in the boundary and also with my parenting team, my husband, because inconsistency is the main reason why children test limits. And I see it with me. When I get stressed or am overly busy, I step back and I am not consistent with boundaries. Let's say, for example, no screen time until your schoolwork is done. And there's a few mornings where I've just been crazy. Yes, you can watch screen. And then I realize I am not being consistent. I am breaking this boundary. And I have to sit with my girls and say, look, I'm sorry, that's me. That's on mommy. This is what we need to do. Because they will test those limits again if I'm going to be inconsistent. And we do need to follow through on consequences. We can't say, if you climb over the fence, this is your consequence, and then not do it. So if they're testing the limits, be there with those consequences. And also we want to be patient. This will test you, but one day they will get it. So I truly, truly believe that one of the best things we can do is teach our children boundaries. Yes, it is hard, but like all hard things, and it takes time, it's going to be truly worth it. They might buck against them for a bit, but it will be worth all the effort. Now, I just want to announce, for the month of December, I am going to be having a sale. So if you go to my website, LearningThis.Life, you'll see all my pocket packs on sale. Just check out the store. But also I have a homeschool course where you can learn how to homeschool with success and get started with success. And so for the month of December, if you use the code DEC23, you'll get a 23% discount on that course. So I'll put the link down below that also you can check that out at my website, LearningThis.Life. Thank you so much for watching today. Thank you for being part of this learning life. If you want to help get these videos out there, you can do that by becoming a champion. So check that out at patreon.com, or you can go to my website where you will also see pocket packs on sale in the store and can get a 23% discount on my homeschooling course with the code DEC23. Check that out at LearningThis.Life.